Hi, everyone. It is David Ault, and I am so honored and so thrilled that you would spend a little bit of your time to join me here for the gathering. If you're watching this in real time, we are fast approaching the end of a calendar year. And I want to point out something that's a little bit unique about this time. Um, we have a greater capacity for self compassion as we exit an old year and enter into a new one. There is like this expanded inhale where we go, okay, let's try this again. And there is some hope to that. If you can understand what I'm saying, that we're not kind of waking up and then going through the motions. We wake up metaphorically to a renewed sense of hope, to saying, okay, maybe now I can do this. And without dismissing that, let's take advantage of that. If you add another element to this time of year, it's the consideration that how we exit is how we enter. So rather than waiting till the very end of this month of December, what if we begin now to think about, to invoke and invite some more intentionality as to how we want to close out the year? Not necessarily what we want the new year to be, but how we want to close out this year. Kind of like tying up loose ends, or re-examining our values, or cleaning up something that is messy, relationally or physically, financially, emotionally, spiritually, whatever, to really optimize this time so that as we exit, this new sense of hope, or this expanded permission of hope that we're giving ourselves, has some broader breathability, some viability, so that it isn't just kind of extinguished the moment that we ignite it. And so, one of the things that helps me is to pick a word. And the picking of the word for the year is not something that is just a casual exercise. For me, I kind of think about that long before the new year approaches. I reflect back on the things that meant the most to me, or the things that I longed for, the things that when I observed them, I was like, yeah, I want more of that. So, for example, some of the words in my past years have been partnership. There were a couple of years where partnership remained at the top of my word of the year. And the reason why I picked that is because the seeming absence of partnership. So that's the beauty of the longing, is that if something appears to be missing, then to pick its polarity means that I must become more of what it is that I'm seeking. So if partnership is really a value to me because perhaps it's been missing in my life, then I must take ownership myself of what my role is in all things partnership. What brings about something that feels balanced? What is required in order to allow partnership in to kind of buoy me when I need that? And then how can I be someone who brings a greater sense of listening and compassion and presence and safety to someone who's in need of that? And so it isn't so much of gimme, 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 but it's about a full participation. And the beautiful thing about the word partnership then was that there was a greater manifestation of that. And in these last four plus years now, I have been in a physical partnership that has been the ultimate manifestation of that word. And I'm going to say that it's not by happenstance, that there's some intentionality there, that what I focus on, I become more aware of, I become more available to. And that's why I think a word of the year is a great asset for any of us as we enter into this time, to begin to reflect on that. Another of my favorite past words was alacrity. Alacrity, not a word that you hear often, but the definition of alacrity is to participate in something with zeal and enthusiasm and wholeheartedness. And I really longed for a community of that, particularly in my nonprofit work. I wanted to welcome in individuals who had a deep passion and a deep commitment and a resonance for all of the things that I hold near and dear. I wanted to allow those who don't want to be in a situation to exit gracefully so that there's space for those who have this resonant, pulsating sense of alacrity for life, for their creativity, for always being teachable, that kind of thing. And so there's been more of that too. I have an expanded circle of people who exhibit and live by this pulsing sense of alacrity. So you might be wondering, what is my word of the year for 2024? And it just came to me yesterday because I've been sitting in the question. And the way that it came to me was, like I said, I began to reflect back on pivotal moments. Sometimes I call them snapshot moments. They're just so powerful, intense, bright, vibrant that I cannot help but reflect upon them and remember them. And so the word of the year for me is grounded, because those moments were when I was interfacing with people who were so grounded. Do you know what I mean by that? There was such a sense of calm. And I don't mean the absence of knowledge or the absence of caring about the world, but that in the midst of a storm, of human activity, of chaos, that there is this calm within them. There is this thing that has deep roots. And I don't know about you, but when I'm in the presence of someone who exhibits groundedness, there's an unlocking of safety, of relaxation, of exhaling when I'm around them. So if I want more grounded experiences with people who possess that, then it becomes my responsibility to do everything within my willingness and intention to become more grounded, right? And so when you look up the etymology of the word grounded, it's an old English word, and familiar words that are, of course, are going to make common sense to you. But grounded comes from its source, its origin, base, foundation. So people, for example, people who appear to be grounded, who behave in a grounded way, let's say they know what their source is. What does that mean? Obviously, it means that they've done the work in order to live life and to be able to break through the veneer or the illusion of duality in such a way that even though things around them are shouting fear, 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 protect, 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 avoid, 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 they're not listening to that, that they have a source, or they are connected to an origin that tells them something different than what the human noise is speaking. So there's a calm in the storm, base and foundation. And so when you think of the word ground and you think of its etymology that way, other words that are associated with that would be grist. And there's a beautiful phrase called grist for the mill. And grist for the mill is a phrase that talks about someone or an experience where we can reflect back on all of life. Listen to what I say, all of life, not any exception or cherry picking, but all of life, and see it as having value. that everything, grist for the mill, has contributed to who and what we are today. People who have somehow managed to do that are grounded. Grist and ground, same etymology. Uh, they have allowed the illusions to be ground, to be pulverized, to not be so locked into some identity that they have um, almost been like the phoenix in the fire. The beautiful thing about the phoenix rising from the ashes is that the phoenix built the fire. It's a self-generating fire. So the bird, the phoenix, didn't just fly into a fire that didn't exist. It built the fire. People who are grounded, people who have allowed their identities to sort of be pulverized and to let those things go, to be associated with source and to know what their foundation is, have allowed themselves to let loose of all the story, all the identification of woundedness, to be pulverized down in such a way. It's almost as if we, those of us who long for that, have built a fire of purification that we are willing to step into, so that what emerges from that is something that exemplifies transcendence, something that is grounded in a world that is seemingly ungrounded. Lots to think about, and I that just came to me so powerfully because I thought, wow, it's really time for me to look at what my word's going to be. And when I did my little exercise of reflection, it was about people, and it was about the immediacy of looking into someone's eyes and connecting and piercing through all of the veneer and the illusion and what we do for a living. And it was just pure, unadulterated connection. And in doing that, that means that that person was relaxing and letting themselves be fully present in my awareness, and I was doing the same with them. It happened about a half a dozen times in our recent travels overseas, mostly in India. There were these people that who were the opposite of that. But then there were these people that had such a stillness, such a groundedness about them that I will speak on their behalf too, possibly, that we wanted that connection to last as long as possible. Meaning eye to eye contact, checking in, safety, exhalation, deep peace. I see you, you see me. So much so that there was this ancient longing to just want to stay there for a moment. And yet the world will pull us away. There will be other people involved in conversation and whatnot. But in that moment, there's an undeniable connection. And boy, do I remember those moments. I remember how much I thought about those moments after they had occurred. I remember giving thanks for even being aware of such a moment as that. I remember really giving thanks for not running away from that kind of a moment. Because I believe more than ever that those opportunities are now handed to us regularly. But if we are constantly dismissing those opportunities, if we are unwilling to stand and to intersperse or interface with such vulnerability, I don't even know if it's really vulnerability, it's just willingness. If we have a willingness to participate and to open up and to just share in the abundance of that, that cultivates and strengthens our groundedness. And so groundedness also, to me, means that the person isn't void of what we like to joke and label as woo-woo. There are many beautiful, I have lots of woo-woo friends. So if you're not familiar with that term, It's just people who are really out there, who participate in spiritual paths and modalities that seem very far-fetched to someone who isn't familiar with that. So we go, oh, they're so woo-woo. But what I love about my grounded memories with these people is they have an equal an equal share of woo-woo, really understanding multidimensionality, but they are also here in this earth doing their thing, walking, cultivating their roots, taking care of business, taking care of themselves, the people around them. And so one isn't being sacrificed for the other. This is another important thing about groundedness. I find in the woo-woo practices a lot of untethering, because this is can be so seductive and so specialized, and sometimes it can take on this whole other identity that we don't realize that we're shedding one identity just to grab and lock on to another. Anything can become addictive. So it's like watching all of us who might have certain addictions denounce that addiction only to pick up another one. And so to me, the harmony of true groundedness is somebody who really understands multidimensional spirituality and has their act together here on the earth. They're dependable. Their word means something. There's not a whole lot of over-promising and under-delivering. It's really something. I mean, it's such a gift and such a treasure to be able to meet people like that. And so if that's what I want the next year to be more of, then I must become more of that. It's kind of the old adage that if you want a friend, be a friend. If you want to feel love, then give more love. If you want to be included more, then be more inclusive to those things that you allow to fill up your daily calendar. It's very simple. It's just the law of reciprocity. So what I am proclaiming for 2024 is more groundedness. And I think about some of the tactical things. So let me point out the woo-woo and the practical. So, one of my favorite books in this realm of this side of the screen would be The Untethered Soul. I have to laugh at the title because to be untethered kind of is the antithesis of being grounded. But Michael Singer's book, The Untethered Soul, is a great template for the beginner who wants to explore what non-duality actually means. What does it mean to keep your heart open, as they say in hell? What does it mean to not attach to story? And so the untethered soul is this beautiful sort of manifesto to get the ball rolling. And I find that people are either really repelled by that book or very attracted to that book, but then the attraction also scares them. And so the application and the embodiment kind of lags behind. But it's a great, great book to delve into something beyond appearances, to break free from the density of the five senses in this human experience and to begin to consider different realities. And then in the practical nature, one of the books that I absolutely love is called Atomic Habits by James Clear. And it is a way to navigate Earth, being in human form, that's palatable, that sets one up for success, that helps bring about clarity, that helps you get to a place of realizing that if I really want to be here, then I can start with these little micro changes and alterations with regards to becoming more of the type of person that I want to be. It's a beautiful, beautiful, amazing book. And when I think about the two of them, that to me is the ultimate combination of grounding. And so what do I then put into practice if that's what I want my word, my life, the absorption of my focus to be about in the coming year. And not just in the coming year, but starting right now as you listen to this. So, one of the things that is helping is very rudimentary, but it's just walking. Being sedentary, either physically or mentally, is one of the more fast ways to an imprisoned form of being. It promotes atrophy. And so when we become so atrophied in our thinking, chances are that our physical presence is also atrophied. And it's important and it's of value to get up and walk. And if walking is difficult for you, then something you might read in Atomic Habits would be, then start small. Walk a couple of laps up and down in front of your home or apartment or wherever it is that you are, and then try to increase that moment by moment. But the real thing is the walking itself, because it does so much within the realm of stimulus, within the realm of neurons and the way in which we promote just natural relaxation within us, just walking. And so if you can begin, if you too want more groundedness or grounded people in your life, then begin the habit of simply moving, walking. The antithesis of that too is stillness, but not the kind of stillness where you are vegetating in front of a screen. Not even the type of stillness where you perhaps are reading a book, but stillness where you allow all of that kind of stimulus and imaginative input and creativity to be on pause for a while, and to begin to practice just focusing on your breath. Just this little area here, the sensation of how it comes into your nose, and just becoming as still as possible. When I talk to people who are very present in my life about stillness, it's fascinating to hear from them all the reasons why they can't be still. Oh, my mind is just too busy. Oh, I have to be doing. And it's like, no, you don't. You don't. Stillness is not as scary as you think it is. To become still and to focus on the breath also is cultivating the deepest of roots and allowing us to become more and more at origin with, in harmony with, source. Remember, the old Dutch words for groundedness are source, foundation, origin, base. We are getting to that primal origin of infinitude, of expansion, of beyond the five senses, when we give ourselves the luxury of that kind of stillness. So you've got walking and stillness. Again, seeming polarities, but both contributing to the same goal. The other one is anchoring. I was thinking about what anchors me. And one of the things you will learn in Atomic Habits is that environment plays a big part with regards to your mental health. And so in your environment, it's good to have anchors. And my interpretation, or my application of an anchor in my physical space are altars. And on my altars, there's various ones throughout the home. There are pictures, there are meaningful things that when I see it, there's an automatic invitation for groundedness. There is a reminder of something that I esteem to be a fundamental truth for me. There is a connection, a visual to something that matters. And if you don't have something like that in your physical space, and groundedness is something that you want more of, then what would be a representation of something that is an anchor for you? It doesn't have to be elaborate. It could just be a picture. It could be a an amulet. It could be some type of a gemstone or a rock, or I don't, something that promotes a link to a time where you felt at peace. That's an anchor. And I believe that we can't have too many of those. And not to do it in such a way that then you become immune to the anchor, but to have them in strategic places so that when you see them, there's almost like an internal permission that you give yourself to breathe as you look at that. Another one that I'll leave you with is a practice that someone taught me called 6-directional breathing. 6-directional breathing, and it starts in the abdomen, below the navel. And it's not as hard as it sounds, but when you inhale up and down. By that, you know what I mean? I'm talking about you can direct the breath mentally. So when you're inhaling, see yourself directing the breath up and down, then left and right, and all around, front and back. So front through the belly and back out. So it's like this breath then becomes bump, 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 bump. 6 directions. It fills up like a balloon. And if you do a couple of those every time you think about them, every time you look at your word, every time you decide that you are in a space that you want to welcome more grounding, then it isn't just breathing, deep breathing. It's let's take it further. Let's do 6-directional breathing, because what that does is it hits all of the different areas, all of the cardinal directions and the heaven and earth directions. It combines all of those things, and you surprise yourself at the capacity by which you can oxygenate, to which you can bring that breath in. And I'm sure you know this, but we starve ourselves so often of breath. We breathe so shallow throughout the day that oftentimes we don't even realize that we are neglecting, we are withholding from ourselves the opportunity to give ourselves one of the greatest gifts that life offers, and that's the gift of breath. So these things are just kind of small, physical, tangible things. So walking and stillness and creating anchors, and then 6-directional breathing. These things can only help, not hinder, but can only help on your path to experiencing more groundedness. As I play around with this, and if this subject comes up again, kind of looking at what to do in order to even create a class around groundedness for those who might be interested in that. But I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. I'd also love to hear, what is the word that is bubbling up for you that you want to begin your preparation in order to exit consciously and to enter consciously into the new year. I look forward to hearing from you. And as always, thank you so much for being here. God bless and great love.